Hello everybody, it's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to my weekly Idiot Quilter episode, which is number 111, and it's April the 20th, 2021. Got a lot of things to share with you today, so let's jump right in with what's behind me. You've seen this one before. This is my Carpenter's Wheel quilt, which I called a fusion quilt because this was from a pattern, but the rest of this is my own design. It is now all layered, it is all quilted, it is bound, and I think it turned out really nice. Now, the quilting is very difficult, I know, from where you're sitting to see, but I did do walking foot quilting on this one. Now, I was going to do free motion in parts of it because I've got a lot of negative space here. But what I did was I laid the quilt down on a bunch of tables. I put a big piece of plastic, heavy-duty plastic, over top of it so it covered the entire quilt, and I took dry erase markers and I started drawing my designs on this and to see what it was like. So I started with some free motion designs, and believe me, they were very simplistic because I'm still not at that level where, but as I was doing it, I really didn't like what I was drawing out. And for some reason, this quilt called out to me that it should be done using a lot of straight lines. So that's what I did. I used my walking foot, and I did basically stitch in the ditch, or about the ditch, all around the squares here, and then diagonal lines through the center. And then when I moved out to this next part, I did actually some serpentine stitches, wavy lines with the walking foot, and I did them fairly small in terms of width of stitch. And then I did straight line, and I did the straight line so that it started here and went over to this side and then the other way, so kind of in an L formation radiating out. Then I finished off in the borders with some more serpentine lines. I think it turned out pretty good. And guess what? No tucks. And I'm going to tell you why that is. I changed my way of layering my quilt. Now, it's not a new way. A lot of people swear by putting their quilt sandwich together by using pins. And I have stayed away from that because I just thought it would be tedious, more work than it's worth. Well, guess what? You learn something new every day. I usually use spray basting, and I did use spray basting on this one, but I thought for extra security I would give a try with the basting pins. So I did. I went over the whole thing using pins as well as the basting spray. And you want to know something? I don't know if it was because I used a walking foot for my principal quilting on this, or whether it was the extra security of the pins, but whatever it was, I didn't get any tucks. I found that I was able to put my quilt under my needle through it without getting any bunching up, like you usually get or can get. So my conclusion is this. That's what I'm going to do on my next quilt. Whether I use walking foot or free motion or ruler footing, whatever, I am going to do a combination of spray basting and pinning because it worked. And you want to know something? It's not that much more time to do it that way, I found. So, sometimes the traditional methods are still the best methods. So anyways, I'm very pleased with this quilt. I'm happy that I have it done now, and I can move on. I still have a pile of UFOs. I've got to put myself to that. But now I have started a new quilt. Well, I'm about to start a new quilt. And that is the Strong and Free one that was designed by Paul Leger, who is the head of our Canadian men quilters. I don't want to call it a guild because we're not a guild, but we're on the Facebook, but we're a group. And I'm getting excited about doing his pattern, although I have discovered that his pattern involves a very large applique. I'm not afraid of the applique. The thing is, I've got to cut the applique out, and it's big. And he's given you sheets of paper or told you how many sheets of paper in your copier that you'll have to print out in order to do it. And I think it's like 16, something like that, and you got to tape them all together. So not difficult, I don't think. I just think it's a little bit cumbersome. But that may be what I'm going to get started on this week. What I should be doing is quilting another quilt that I have hanging in my UFOs. Anyways, I'm happy this one's done. I enjoyed making this one. I enjoyed making them all, but it's done. Speaking of quilts and ongoing projects, I am still working on my X-Guilds mystery quilt. I'll just show you what it's beginning to look like. I still don't know how this is all going together, but and you might think that my color choices and things are just going to be over the top, but then that's me, right? So I have a bunch of these, and I have a bunch of these, and I have 100 of these half square triangles. I made those on the weekend. I still don't know how this goes together because it's a mystery. And that takes me up to installment 4. I think there's 2 more installments. So I guess May and June. And then we put it all together. So I'm getting kind of excited by this because I think it's going to be really interesting when I get it done. You might think it's a little loud. And yes, okay, I agree with you. It is a little loud. I am having a little bit of problem getting my blocks to come out the size that they want them to come out to. So for example, these 2 blocks are not the same size. Let me put this one, which is slightly smaller, on top of the other one. They're only out by, I'd say, 1/4 of an inch all the way around. So you can see the other ones in behind here peeking out. But I'll just trim it. But I'm not going to trim it right yet. I'm going to wait and see what the other pieces are and how it all fits together. I guess that could be a combination of my pressing, could be my seam allowance. I don't know why I'm having that difference. But yeah, we'll make it work no matter what. Okay, so that's a project I've been working on. Now, on the weekend, and I'm going to talk about this in a second, I was on a virtual retreat. And that's when I got all those half square triangles that I needed to get done. And by the way, to make those half square triangles, I use something called triangulations. Now, you may know this as triangles on a roll, or those patterns that, you know, they print out the lines, you sew on the lines, you cut on the lines, and you get perfect half square triangles. Well, some time ago, someone told me about a program by Bear Paw, I think is the name of the company. I think they're in Alaska. And they have these triangulations, which you print out on your home printer, and they have them for all sizes. I think the program, it's on a CD, it cost about $40. Canadian, I think it worked out to. But actually, it's really nice to have because, you know, the initial cost of $40, that's not too terribly bad, but you know, whatever size you want, and they work very, very well. When I'm doing a large number of half square triangles, I will often use that method. I find it's a little faster and it makes more accurate half square triangles instead of drawing the line down across the diagonal, sewing a 1/4 inch on either side of the line and cutting it. So that's what I do for very large batches of that, and that's what I used on the weekend. And then on the weekend, I also did a little bit of embroidery, and that was probably my stomach you just heard growling. You know, I can't get through a video without my body making some kind of noise. I'm either coughing, sneezing, hiccuping, or growling. I don't charge anything extra for any of that. So I did this. You know how I love in the hoop designs. And this is an in the hoop one, and I love these 3-dimensional kind of things. And this one's just quirky because it looks like a version of a retro 1950s style rocket kind of thing from, you know, from old B movies like Flash Gordon and all those kind of things. So I put it together on the weekend. I've been working on it before the weekend, just off and on, because there's a number of pieces in this, but I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I think it's just really kind of cute and gitchy. I like gitchy. And speaking of gitchy, okay, I made a purse. In the hoop embroidery, I saw this design from Creative Kiwi. It was like $4.99 Canadian or something. And I thought, you know, I got to give it a go. So I did. And here it is. Just a little purse. Now that is supposed to be the letter S on the front of it. And that came with the program. They had this panel. It's a crazy patch kind of thing, as you can see. That does not look like an S to me. That script that they're using, that looks like a G or something like that to me. Now, of course, you don't have to even put an initial on this. You can like forget it, or you can put in a different script and put it over top. You can edit it to a certain extent. But I just left it as it was. And it's got, you know, there's quilting on each one of these panels and on the back. And I used ribbon for my handles, just because I had it. And the inside's all lined as well. So really, it was kind of fun to make. The only thing is, it's the size. Now, I might be able to do another one and make it a little bigger. But, you know, it's one of those novelty kind of things, I think. You know, this kind of thing might make a cute little, you know, gift for somebody. You know, throw in a couple of you know, fat quarters and some marking pens or something, a little ruler or whatever, as, you know, a hostess gift or something like that. I just like making these kind of things. And so I did. So that was fun too. So I had a really great weekend of being creative. And so that brings me to talking a little bit about what I was on. The Quilter's Way, which you've heard me talk about many, many times before, which is a paid membership site that I belong to, run by Kim Jameson Hurst out in Calgary. It's a great group. I've made a lot of friends on there. And she, every 6 months or so, I don't know if she has a time when she does this, but anyways, she does a virtual retreat for a weekend. And this was called Energize 3.0. So that means we've had 3 of them now. And it's just so much fun. And I just get so inspired by what other people are making and by our discussion. And I learn a lot of things too. And I'm going to tell you what I learned this weekend, which got me really excited and made me do a happy dance. But I'm going to tell you about that in a minute, just to go over what this is like. Because if you're thinking about joining the Quilter's Way, this is something that is offered to the members only of Quilter's Way. It's absolutely free as members. And Kim always has some demos, and she has some guest speakers. So on the Friday night, it started on the Friday night at about 7 o'clock our time, Eastern Standard Time. It's about 5 o'clock her time, because she's in Calgary and they're about 2 hours behind us. We had a cocktail party, which was great. So I'd set up my Zoom equipment so we could see this whole thing on our big screen TV. And as opposed to where I usually do my Zooms, which when they're sewing ones, which are in this room here. And we had our cocktails all ready, Walter and I, and we decided to do appies for dinner that night while this was on. So we were munching away and drinking away and talking away to everybody else. Not everybody joined in on it, but enough did, and it was fun. It was a little party. A virtual party. And you know, I think it's an excellent way to start something like a retreat. And I think the next time I do a retreat, I'm going to do something similar because it breaks the ice. Kim has a lot of new members who had never been to one of our retreats before. And so, you know, you think you might have this feeling you're coming into a closed group. It is not. They're a very, very friendly group of people. But it's a way, you know, to get everybody a little relaxed and get them up for the next day of sewing. If you chose to sew during that, you could, although I don't think anybody really was. We were just enjoying each other's company and having a laugh. And we really did. We had a good time. So that was great. Then comes Saturday morning. For us out here in the Eastern time zone, it started at 10 in the morning and ran until about 7 o'clock in the evening. In the Western time zone, it started a little earlier yes, I guess it would be an earlier time for them. Yeah, about 8 o'clock in the morning for them till about 5. So it doesn't go all day through the night, although if you so desired that you want to stay up, you could, but I think everybody else was offline at that point in time. And we worked on whatever. Kim had one demonstration. Her husband, Gary, is her technical person who, you know, does a lot of the behind the scenes recording and, you know, checking comments and the lighting and everything like that. And he showed us a behind the scenes of the Quilter's Way as to what his setup is. Personally, I really enjoyed that because I'm really interested in knowing how other people put together their videos. I'm kind of Mickey Mouse at it, although after seeing Gary's presentation and he talked about lighting, and lighting is a real pain in the butt. He talked about the Diva lights, ring lights. That's what I have on right now. If you look into my glasses really closely, you can probably see it being reflected. I try to angle it such a way that you won't get that. Kind of like beady eyes in the night looking at you. But I have one of those and it works really, really well. But he was talking about the lighting system he uses. So I went on to Amazon and I bought something similar. I'm sure it's not exactly the same thing as he has because, well, the ones that are coming this Friday for me, I got 2 of them for like 60 bucks. So we'll see. I'm taking a chance. But especially, not so much when I do videos for the Idiot Quilter, but when I do my vlog, I have a problem with lighting there, and even with Stephen and Walter Live. So that was really interesting to see how they do their productions, because their productions are very professional. Then we had a presentation by a lady named Heidi, I'm going to say her name incorrectly, Proffetty, P-R-O-F-F-E-R-T-Y, something like that. Did I write it down? No, I didn't write it down. I'm sorry. But she was doing something really fascinating. She was doing a form of sort of a cross between embroidery and thread painting, where she was creating these mini works of art using her decorative stitches on her sewing machine. And that just opened up a whole new world to me of creativity, because it's not just using the decorative stitches on your sewing machine, but it's manipulating them, using some of your settings and things like that, and your imagination to create really wonderful art. I will try to find the link to her website so you can get an up close and personal look at what she creates, because it is so inspiring. And I'll put that in the show notes below. Okay, make a note. Add Heidi. Okay, I will do that. The one thing I didn't, well, it's one criticism, a constructive criticism of her presentation was, we were supposed to do a couple of little mini projects with her. We never really got to them. She did one with us, but she went so fast that you just sort of stopped and just listened. I mean, I got the general concept of what she was doing and everything like that, but it was just so much information in a very compacted amount of time. But her stuff is wonderful. She herself is wonderful. So I highly suggest that when you see the link in the show notes, you check her out, because I think it's going to give you a whole new way of looking at the decorative stitches in your sewing machine. The next day, on the Sunday, Kim did a demonstration of those rope bowls and how to embroider on them using your embroidery machine, which was really interesting. And later in the afternoon, she had a little trunk show of the quilts that we, as members of the Quilter's Way, had submitted to her in advance. I did not really see that because that happened to coincide at the same time that we went on the air with Stephen and Walter Live, so I kind of missed that, although I think she recorded it and is going to put it up, may have already put it up as a replay. So I want to check that out. Yep, now I've got the hiccups. Excuse me for a minute. And you heard me slurp. Okay, so anyways, I said that not only was it a lot of fun and inspiring, but I also learned a few things. So a couple of us got talking about the problems I have with my automatic threader on my new M7 and on Walter's 550E. That's his embroidery machine, and I'm using it right now to do these kind of projects while I wait for mine to come in, because I've got one all ordered and paid for, but they were sort of on back order with Janome, and supposedly it comes in about May, so Shirley tells me, so we'll see. But in the meantime, he's busy sewing garments, so I'm using his embroidery machine. But both of them, the automatic threader doesn't automatically thread, so I've got to do it manually. Boo-hoo, yeah, I know. But once you've had an automatic threader, and a lot of the sewing machines today are coming out with that, and everybody has this problem at some point in time. Yeah, I know I'm going to get a comment and someone's going to say, I've got such and such a sewing machine. I've had it for 3 years and I've never had one little problem with it whatsoever. Well, great, I'm glad, I'm happy for you. But they do bust, okay? And what I mean by bust is there's a little teeny piece of metal with a hook on the end of it. You know, looks like a little tiny crochet hook kind of a thing. And that goes through the eye of the needle, picks up the thread, and pulls it back through in a perfect world. And it'll work for a while, but they are very sensitive. There are so many things that can affect why that automatic threader will not automatically thread anymore. The most common cause is the size of the needle and the thread. It doesn't work with all needles, it doesn't work with all threads. So read your manual. It's got a very limited range of what it can handle. And if you try to use it and make it do something it can't do, it will bend that little wire and then it's out of alignment and it won't go in the hole. If you continue to force it, it can actually break off. And then you're kind of up the creek without a paddle, so to speak. Now, you can take it to your dealer and they can fix it. But I also discovered, one of the things I learned is, you can buy the little part and install it yourself. And apparently it's not that difficult. The only thing I'm finding difficult is finding a supplier at a reasonable price for one of those. I found some in the States and they charge only $9.99 US, so $14 Canadian. That's not bad. On Amazon they had them, Canadian Amazon, but they're out of stock and they were $27 or something like that. But you can fix it yourself too. It is fiddly. It's not hard, but it's very, very tedious. So one of the people on there, Rob lives in the Netherlands, he told me, he told me how to fix it. And he directed me to a YouTube channel, which I'm going to direct you to as well in the show notes for this. Essentially what you do is you take a pair of tweezers, or you take a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, take your needle out so you can see the little thing, and it's very difficult. You may want a magnifying glass. And you need to bend it, whichever way it's bent out of shape of. So in my case, I had to bend it towards the left, just a little bit. Now it is a fairly strong steel that's there, so it's not like so sensitive. It's just going to, like a little piece of tin, it's going to go, just bend real easy. You have to give it a little force. I found that if I took the flat head of the screwdriver, pushed it right in, at the base of the little piece of wire, and the little hook, it's not a hook, a little prong that comes out beside it, which is a heavier and thicker piece of steel. It's a guide of some sort. If I push that in and just bent it over towards the left just a little bit, that did it. Now you might have to play around with it a little bit until you get it right in the right spot. But guess what? I only spent maybe 10 minutes doing that. I fixed it. It works like a charm. So I went to the embroidery machine and did the same thing, and it's fixed. I was so happy. Happy, 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 happy. Little happy dance I did with that. And that was worth the price of admission to the retreat. Well, the retreat didn't cost me anything, but if it had, it was worth it. So yeah, things like that happen out of this retreat. And that's why I think it's good to go to retreats, because you get other people telling you what they have learned, their experience, and they come up with ideas that you may never have thought of. So yeah, I was very happy. So overall, I'm still coming down from the high from the weekend because I had such a good time. Now, was Walter on this with me? No, he's not a member of Quilters Way, but that's okay. On Sunday, the Canadian men quilters had a sew day, and he was upstairs on his computer and on his sewing machine working away with that group. So yeah, everybody had something to do this weekend. So it was fun, lots of fun. Okay, and as I said, I have put a link in the show notes showing what I was talking about in terms of adjusting the needle threader. Now, it's a different machine, it's not a Janome, but it doesn't really matter because these needle threaders look for the most part to be pretty generic. So, you know, you can check that out if you want to see what I mean about fixing it. But just a warning, you have to have some patience with it. It is a little tedious. Okay, so that takes us on to Wally Sews. So I'm going to insert a video right here just showing you his latest projects. It runs about 20 seconds. It's not long. He's been madly making summer shirts, and they're gorgeous. He makes them out of quilting cotton, but there's some great patterns. I'm still not sure which ones are going to be mine yet. I know which ones I want, all of them. But he's madly putting this wardrobe together, so we're going to be very colorful come the warmer months soon. So I'm just going to insert that short little clip in here right now for you. So Walter's been busy making up a summer wardrobe here. Here are 3 of his shirts in various states of completion. I think the blue one is done. The one in the middle needs buttons, and then this one needs sleeves. But a very colorful wardrobe. I'm still not sure which ones of these are mine. He hasn't said. So now I'm turning to my segment where I like to talk or demo some new products or products that I have that you might be interested in. And this product this week is a book that I bought. It's called All-in-One Quilter's Reference Tool. Now, I have seen this at my local quilt store many times, but I've never bothered to buy it. And the reason I bought it this time was because the company I bought it from online, About Patchwork, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, I need it. Okay, I'm a sucker for the free shipping, right? They put, if you buy this amount, you get free shipping. So what do? I buy that amount, whether I need it or not. I needed about $20 more to get free shipping from this company. So I saw they had this book, and I think it was on sale as well. So I purchased it. And actually, I'm very glad I did, because here's what you can expect from this book. It's got a lot of information that quilters need to know, like talks about the sizes of quilts, bed quilt sizes, straight set quilts, diagonal set quilts, number conversions, yardage requirements, cutting, supplies, piecing, 20 popular traditional blocks. And it gives you basically charts, and there's a quick start guide in the front of it so you can read these charts, but it gives you the measurements. So you don't need math. If you're planning a quilt and you want to know how to set your blocks, what size you need, and that kind of thing, it's full of charts. You just find the information you want in those and away you go. Also, it comes with these quilt patterns, some traditional ones, but shows you again measurements and for different sizes and how much you need to cut and what your measurements have to be. So I think this is a really excellent book to have. They have an index at the back that takes you to whatever you need as well. So I think this is something that should be part of your reference library as a quilter. I have it now, and I'll be honest, I haven't really used it yet, but I intend to use it. So that's something I wanted to share with you. And if you're interested in who it's by, Harriet Hargrave, Sharon Craig, Alex Anderson, that name's familiar to me because my very first quilt was an Alex Anderson design, and Liz Anilowski. I'm not sure if I'm saying those names right, but that's what I said. So yeah. And I think you can get it on Amazon as well, but you know, probably if your quilting store sells quilting books, they probably have this as well. So it's available everywhere, as they say. Okay, now, all right, I'm going to do something now I don't usually do, but I feel very compelled to do it. And I'm going to get very serious here right now, so let me have some coffee. You know why I usually present different YouTube channels and things to you that I find useful every week on the Idiot Quilter. And there is one that I have presented in the past, which I think is very good, and it's called So Very Easy. And the producer of that, the host of that, is Laura Koya, I think is her last name. She's a Canadian, fellow Ontarian. I think she lives in the Niagara Falls area. I always find her videos very informative. They're very professionally done. No complaints about anything like that. Laura seems like a very lovely person, and also someone who really knows what she's talking about and what she's doing. And this is why what I'm about to say makes it even more difficult for me. She had announced that she had a special announcement coming up. She announced it last week, said it was going to be on Monday or Tuesday, and she got everybody really excited about this. So I tuned in for the announcement. Her announcement is this. She's going on a river cruise from Memphis to Tennessee, to Nashville, Tennessee, and it's a sewing cruise, or at least she's putting it out there like that. She is one of the sewing celebrities that will be on this cruise, and there's another one from Schmidt's Needles that's going as well. And that sounds great, and it's wonderful. It's 8 days, 7 nights. You know, it's a cruise. I'm not sure. Is it the Mississippi? I don't know. From Memphis to Nashville, they make some stops in between to go to quilt stores. They go to the Grand Ole Opry, things like that. It sounds wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. It's in the first week of August this year. Here's my problem. We're not out of COVID yet. Now, I try not to talk about COVID during these episodes, but I'm going to talk about that. Here in Ontario, we're in dire straits. We are having over 4,000 new cases of COVID every day. We're vaccinating people, but people are not getting vaccinated quick enough. We have a problem with supply of vaccine as well. We're in lockdown right now. We're very restricted right now because they're trying to get a hold on this and get it, out of our way. We're in the third wave. It is not good. Our hospitals are coming to capacity. We're in a semi-crisis situation. Now, many of us have gotten the first shot, but not enough. In fact, only just slightly over 300,000 people in a province of 14 million have had both shots. That's all. I know in the United States, it seems that they are doing it at a much more rapid rate. But here in Canada, and in Ontario especially, we are not. I've had my first shot, but I'm not going to get my second shot for 4 months. That means sometime the tail end of July. And a lot of Ontarians who have had the first shot are in the same boat. But the point is, come the 1st of August, we are not out of this yet. The whole of Ontario will not have been given the vaccine yet. They have told us that. They're saying the earliest that we will be fully vaccinated won't be until the early fall. September, I think it's wishful thinking to think that that's going to happen. Also, we don't know how these vaccines are going to work on the variants as well. They keep trying to assure us that, yeah, they think they're going to be effective, but they don't know for sure. And in fact, they don't even know for sure how effective in the long run the vaccines we're getting now are going to be against COVID. There's a lot of uncertainty out there still. Our government is still telling us, and the authorities, wear our masks, wash your hands, stay socially distanced from people. Do not go out except for absolute essential items like food. We can't do in-store shopping except for food and drugstores to get our drugs and things like that. Everything else is reduced to, shipping or curbside pickup. So we're not out of this thing. And to plan a river cruise where you're inviting other people to join because you're making it a sewing theme seems to me, quite frankly, irresponsible. If all went really well and in a perfect world, yeah, we could get back to normal before the first week in August. But I don't think that's going to happen. You may disagree with me, but I'm trying to be realistic about this. Now, as a YouTube content creator, I believe that any content creator has a responsibility. We are influencers. People tune into us and listen to us, and I have been influenced by other creators, and I know some of the people that watch me have been influenced by what I say. So the onus is upon a content creator to be socially responsible, especially during something like this whole COVID situation we've been in for a year and a half now. I don't think Laura is thinking about that. Yeah, I know it would be exciting to go on something like that. Yeah, but it's too early. If she was planning this for August of 2022, I'd say, wow, yeah, great, wonderful. The other thing is she's going with, it looks like, I could be wrong about this, but I did sort of look at the website she pointed us to, if you wanted to book for this. They seem to be a travel agency that specializes in excursions and cruises, and they're out of Florida. As a Canadian, do I need to say more about that? This cruise is going in the southern United States. Tennessee, it's going to Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee. Everything we've heard in the news about Tennessee was where there was a lot of anti-maskers, anti-vaccine people, the whole bit. Do we have such a short memory that we don't remember what the situation was like only a couple of months ago in both our country and the United States? And she's promoting a cruise and not saying a word about any precautions or anything people should be taking if they plan to go on this. She talks about going up on the deck and doing some sewing and having a glass of wine, and yeah, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do that, but not yet. So I am very, very disappointed in Laura. I held her, notice I've used the past tense now, I held her in high regard, high esteem. I admire her professional style videos. I admire her knowledge about quilting and other things related to sewing. I consider her to be a guru of this genre as well. And to hear her promote something like this, as if we were back in 2018 or 2019 when we could do things like that, I think that's irresponsible. I really do. So what does this mean down the road? Well, everybody has their own opinion. And I'm sure there are people who will have their head in the sand and disagree with everything I've said. And why I say your head is in the sand is because we have the ability as human beings to rationalize anything. And a lot of people right now think that because they've had the first shot, even if they had the second shot, they are completely immune to this disease and everything is going to go back to normal. I think that's being naive, to say the least. So, everybody has the choice, but I always come back to the one thing I've said since the beginning of COVID. You have the choice to kill yourself, to get sick. You do not have the right to give this disease to anybody else and kill them. And I think a river cruise in August in the southern United States is just asking for trouble. Now, prove me wrong. Please. Please. I would, and I will. If things change, if this cruise is a wonderful experience for people, that there's no problems and the world is safe and everything, I will eat my words. I will. I will come on here and I will apologize to Laura. I will. But right now, I think this is a foolish, irresponsible move. Bring on the comments, because I know there'll be some of you that won't agree with me. So be it. That's your right. It's also my right to have my opinion as well, and I've stated it. Okay, let's get back to our previously recorded program, shall we? So that takes us to Subscribers Quilt of the Week. And just as an aside here, I'm starting to run out of quilts or of things to show. So if you've got some things, please, please, please send them to me. I'd be more than happy to feature you on here, as I'm about to feature a repeat individual, someone that's become a friend as far as I'm concerned, and she has some beautiful quilts, and the submission she's made for this week isn't any different. She has submitted a memory quilt, and this is Jean Eubanks, or as I refer to her, as she likes to refer to herself, is Jeannie. So I'm going to show you her great work on this as well right now. This week's subscriber's quilt is from Jean Eubanks, and Jean writes, in 2015, my sister Andy and I took a 3,000-mile road trip from Illinois through Montana and Wyoming and back to Illinois. I made this quilt for Andy to commemorate our trip. I included the highlights of the trip in the quilt, and it is a very beautiful quilt, and you can certainly see elements from their trip that she has embedded into this quilt, which makes it a really special quilt, because it's not just a quilt, but it is a memory quilt as well. And I have done something similar with my Aussie quilts, and you've seen those before. But I think this is really a nice idea and a nice alternative to doing photos or scrapbook pages, something that is both usable and also something that when you're snuggled up with it, you can remember a time that was great in your life. So thanks, Jean, for sending that on to us. So you'll find my shout outs or resources, whatever you want to call them, in the show notes below. There is a link to the latest edition of So Chatty, episode 4. On episode 4, I review my second sewing machine, which is the Janome Skyline S7. Love that machine. It's a great one. It's my travel machine. And I talk a little bit about that. And so do check that one out. And at the end of this week, we'll have a new one out, and it'll be about sergers and cover stitch machines. And that'll be featuring Walter, because he's the one that uses those the most in his garment making. There's a link to Ultimate Sewing as well, and a link to a store I'm going to talk about in a few minutes with some products I bought from them. And they're an online fabric store as well called About Patchwork. I'm going to talk about Bonnie K. Hunter's YouTube channel, and I'm going to there's a link to the pattern that I'm going to show you that I want to make in the future. And of course there is that link to called Adjusting a Bent Threader Hook, which I referred to earlier about straightening out your automatic threader. So let's move on to Bonnie K. Hunter, YouTube of the Week. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Bonnie K. Hunter. She is a guru in the quilting world. Lots of information comes from her. She has books out. She did retreats and things, still does, I think. Probably virtual ones. Just a wealth of knowledge from her many, many years as a quilter. So you will find a lot of that information, of course, on her YouTube channel. So if you're new to quilting, or if you're an expert quilter, you will glean interesting information. She does a lot of long arm quilting, so for you long armers, you should tune into this as well. I am sure many of you know about Bonnie K. Hunter's YouTube channel, but if you don't, that's why I'm bringing it up, because it's another resource, and that's what I aim for on here, is to link you up with resources that I have found useful. So check out Bonnie K. Hunter's YouTube channel, and I think she calls it, it's listed as Bonnie K. Hunter, but I think she also has another title in there, yeah, Quiltville. And I think that links up to her website as well. Okay, so let's talk about some fabric that I bought. I think today's going to be kind of long on this. So off to, I saw this fabric. It's called Journey. It's by, or maybe it's not called Journey. Yes, it is. It's called Journey. It is by Melanie Samra. Northcott is the producer of it, and I thought it was a really interesting line. So I went on to Ultimate Sewing, and they definitely had it. So I bought 12 meters of 6 designs from this line. Do I have a plan for this? I do not yet, but that's okay. It's going in my stash. I'll find something to do with it. So here's one of them. It's dark. This one's dark. It's dark, sort of greeny, bluey teals in it. And then also dark, but from the same line. And again, it picks up the teals and some of the grays, so you put those two together. So this is sort of a dark, this is a medium. And then we get into a little bit lighter. And this one has sort of this pattern, and this is why it's called Journey. You can see it's got compasses on it, and directions, and a globe, and things like that. And I thought that was really nice. Carrying on. Then they had this gradient one, which moves from light, medium to dark. And I thought that was really interesting too. It looks like a landscape, which I might look for a pattern that, or create my own, that does something like that, a landscape. Just fold that up, get it out of my way. Then I'm moving more into the medium tones here. Again, this one. And you can see there's a little bit of that goldy yellow peeking through, which is in this one. And then a light, which has the teals and the yellows again in a much lighter colorway. So all of these together, now this is the hard part. Better move my coffee. I've had disasters before. So here we go. Oh, here. Let me do it this way. Let me put all the folded edges together and you'll get a better look. Okay. Here we are. So I think this could make a very dramatic looking quilt. And as I said, maybe picking up on the landscape theme that I see in the gradiated one. But anyways, yeah, I picked those up. Love them. Now, I went on a little spending spree on a site I had never been on before. I'm always looking for online stores, especially ones that are Canadian and in Ontario, because shipping's cheaper. And I found one, and it's called About Patchwork. And I bought a few things from them. So you know that I love that fabric line by Northcott called City Line, and I showed you the pattern that I'm going to work on. And I bought yardage of that. And I'm just opening the box that these came in. But this particular, okay, sorry about the noise. I should have done this before I went on air. I didn't realize this box was going to be a bit of a fight. Okay. All right, did it. So I got this box set of, I believe they're fat quarters. Yeah, they're fat quarters. I'm not going to take them all out because you've seen them before, but these are all fat quarters from the entire design line of City Lights. And I thought, because I like that fabric line so much, I thought it would be good to have some fat quarters. Do I know what I'm going to do with them? No. I never know what I'm going to do with them, but I got them. Now, the next one I bought from About Patchwork is this set. And I just thought they were really pretty. Now, there are some colors in here that I do not traditionally buy, and that's the pinky shades. But I thought this just had a really summery look to it. And I like the way they tied it up. It's actually a measuring tape. So, you know, that's a keeper. So I'm just going to undo it here so you can get a look. Oh yeah, there's a knot. Oh, give me a break. Really? I'm so professional. Okay, it's almost out. Just bear with me. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, here we go. Wow, well tied up. Okay, but like I said, it's been done up with an actual vinyl measuring tape. So, you know, that won't come amiss. So let's take a look at what we've got. First of all, how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 fat quarters. I think this cost me about 90 bucks. Or no, it might have been less than that. No price tag. I can't remember. But anyways, I'm just going to show you quickly what they look like. So you can see they've got sort of a floral, almost tropical look to them. And as I said, it is not the colorway that I usually gravitate towards. But let's think outside of the box, shall we? I do find them very pretty. You know, they'd make a great shirt, except there's not enough of it. Usually Walter buys 3 meters of a fabric to make a shirt. But still, you could still buy yardage. But yeah, I think it's great. And here's one of those ones that's, you know, like what I showed you in the Journey line. Gradiated. I think they're very pretty. And I think they're going to make something wonderful. I'll have to find a suitable pattern for this. And I want to keep them all together because I do want to use those, because they already coordinate, as my, you know, for one pattern instead of, you know, taking a piece here for using for something else. At least that's my plan, and we'll see how that works. Now, I was going to say, who is this by? And I have forgotten. These are made by Moda, and the line, if I can find it on the selvage, is called Joyful Vine, Sunshine Soul, Joyful Vine. I don't get the naming of fabric. I really don't. Sunshine Soul. Is that the name of the line? And is this the name of this particular fabric? Joyful Vine. And it's by Moda, but I don't see a designer's name on this. So I don't know who the actual designer is. And just to check, bear with me for a second, please. I'm just going to see if that Joyful Vine is the name of that particular piece. And Sunshine, what did I say? Sunshine something? Sunshine Soul is the name of the line. Okay, no selvage on this piece. Well, that always helps, doesn't it? I'll check one more. Yeah, okay. Sunshine Soul and Sunlit. Okay, so Sunshine Soul, that's hard to say, is the line. The individual fabrics have their own name, and it's by Moda. And I don't know who the designer is. So if you're interested, that's what you can look up. Sunshine Soul by Moda. Anyways, I'm kind of excited about working with this fabric. I'm excited about working with any fabric, as you probably know. Okay, so I got that and the City Lights Fat Quarters and that book that I showed you earlier, the reference tool, from a place online called Mad About Patchwork. Okay, Mad About Patchwork is in Stintsville, Ontario, which is a little ways outside of Ottawa. So it's about 4 hours away from where I live. I looked at their fabric prices, about average $18 per meter and up. They do have a good selection of pre-cuts, and of course you can see that because I bought these and I bought these from them. So that's one thing I really like, because I'm into pre-cuts. Do they sell sewing machines? No, they do not, that I could see on their website. They did have a good variety of notions though, and pretty much in the standard range, the prices you would expect for those. They had patterns, lots of patterns, including bag patterns. So if you're into bag making, but not only that, but they had something that a lot of quilt stores do not have. They had some clothing patterns as well. They were ladies' clothing, look like tops and things like that. But that's something you don't usually find in a quilt store. They had a good selection of Aurifil thread, and they have a thread called So Fine, and I should order some of it because it's actually made in the Ottawa area, which I found kind of interesting. And prices were average for that. They do have classes online. In fact, they look like they had quite a few online classes you could sign up for. I need to pursue those a little further and see if there's anything there that really grabs my interest. They had gifts related to quilting. They had mask making supplies, and they have a loyalty program, which I'm not completely clear on because I didn't spend the time to look of what that involved. I think it was a point system based on what you buy, kind of a thing. Now, shipping. They have free shipping in Canada if you order over $175 worth. Now, that's what it says on the website, but I'm pretty sure that I only had to order $150 to get free shipping. That's why I bought the extra book to bring what I paid for these 2 bundles of pre-cuts up to the free shipping amount. And I'm pretty sure it was only $150 there, but on the website it says it's $175. If otherwise, it's $9.99 flat rate if under that $175, and that's anywhere in Canada. For the US, they have a range. It depends on how much you buy. Ranges from as low as $12 Canadian to $30 US. I have no idea about outside of North America. I guess you'd have to email them to find that out. And do they have a physical store? Yes, they do. When this whole COVID thing's over and done with, I want to do a trip out to the Ottawa area and go to Stintsville and check out their store because I'm very impressed at their efficiency. I was very impressed with their customer service, and I was very impressed with their selection. So I do want to, they're on my list of places to visit when we can go and visit places again. Probably not till next summer, not this one coming. So that takes us to, and I've got the link to that in the show notes as well. This takes us to this week's quilt that I'm going to critique, one of my quilts. It's called my Canada quilt, and I'm going to insert that in here right now. This week's quilt that I'm going to critique, which is my quilt, is one I'm particularly proud of because I made this for Canada Day about a year or so ago. And I took a pattern that already existed, the maple leaf pattern, and I adapted it to this quilt. So the quilt in itself is my design, but it is based upon an existing pattern. And I had a lot of this Canadian fabric from Northcott, and I really wanted to use it for this particular quilt. So you can see that this one is a fairly simple layout, and I did the same block in different colors of fabric throughout. Now, it is a little bit on the busy side if you look at those blocks. Some of them stand out better than others. The red on the off-white blocks look pretty good. Even the white and black do show up fairly well, but the red poppy fabric on the moose background, that's a little bit too busy, I think. So if I was to redesign it, I would not maybe use those particular fabrics in this quilt. The border is a combination of some strips cut from another piece of the Canadian fabric. That's the inner border, and the outer border is maple leaf, of course. So this is a very patriotic looking quilt. A lot of maple leaves happening in this one. Now, if we take a closer look at the actual blocks themselves, and let's look at my points. How did I do? Pretty good. Pretty good on those. They're half square triangles, of course, but for the most part, I pretty much got the whole point in when I put these together. So that means that my cutting and my pressing were fairly accurate. So I'm happy about that as well. I did add sashing pieces here, as you can see, and up close you can see some of the sashing pieces do have words that are sort of go along with the Canadian theme with our country as well. And I did do walking foot quilting, and I kept it very simple. I did the serpentine stitch on this because already the quilt is pretty busy, and I thought maybe the serpentine would give it a sort of a ripply look, sort of like a flag in the wind. I don't know, that was my idea. I don't know if anybody else would think that when they saw it, but that's what I was going with. And here you can see the backing fabric that I used, which is all Canadian flags, and the quilting itself does show up on the back of this when you look at it carefully, but it doesn't overpower it, mainly because that backing fabric is pretty busy. And I did use a red shade of thread to do the quilting, as you can see. So overall, I think this turned out very, very well. I'm very happy with it. Some of my in the ditch stitching along my sashing could have been a little straighter, but for the most part, I'm really pleased with this quilt. So that brings us pretty much to the end of this very long episode. And what's coming up? Well, I've already mentioned that we have episode 4 of So Chatty. So if you haven't checked that out already, check it out if you're interested, about the Skyline, the Janome Skyline S7. And as I said, later this week, we'll be putting out episode 5, probably in around Friday, about cover stitch machines and the Janome and Elna air threader sergers as well. So that's all I have for you this week. I hope you have a good week. I hope you have a fun week. Go out, sew something nice for yourself. Stay safe while you're doing it, especially those of you that are living in Ontario right now. And we'll see you next week for another edition of The Idiot Quilter. Bye-bye for now.